Well, after what felt like an absolute eternity, wasn't it nice to hear the return of this in Pat's Nation?
Contributed. I'm so proud of the new players, the new coaches. People had all the excuses it couldn't happen, but you all did it, and I'm spoiled now. I'm going to count on a lot more to.
Hey, yeah, we just getting started.
Most importantly, we're giving you this game ball.
You get a game ball, you get a game ball, you get a game ball. Game balls for everybody. Actually, there was a game ball for Gerard Mayo, and then he gave one to Elliot Wolf. And then later on, Jawan Bentley took the mantle from the great Matthew Slater as the leader of the How Do We Feel? Oh, yeah, chant. And I think, Andy, what did he say as we kick off the latest edition of Six Rings and Football Things live on the Fitzy GFY and WEEI socials? And, of course, your number one place for awesome football talk on the Six Rings podcast, be it via Spotify, Apple Pods, the Odyssey app, or wherever you can find awesome football talk. You got Andy Jumbo Hart from the WEEI Afternoon Show, and, of course, scheduling his afternoon beverages, your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens at Fitzy GFY. What did Juwan Bentley say? I kind of like the way he handled it. It's like, how do we feel about coming in and putting the clamp on their shiz or what? However he said it, I loved it. But what was the phrasing again?
It was something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but I like that he put his own spin on it as this evolves over the years. The all yeahs from the Brewskis through the Slaters and everybody. So, and isn't that symbolic of kind of what's going on? Like the Patriot way continues. It's just a new Patriot way. It's a modern Patriot way. It has roots in the original Patriot way, but it's growing differently.
Just the same way now, like as fans will experience when they come to the home opener this Sunday. If you went to either of the pretend season games back in August, you heard that the walkout music, that what they've decided to do is hold on to Carmina Burana, the classical music that they use for their tunnel walk. But then when they come out onto the field, it's not just the good old Crazy Train from Ozzy Osbourne, but rather I think it's Let's Go by Lil Jon, and it has Crazy Train sampled in the backdrop. So that's the backbeat of it. So it's sort of like it reminds you of something that you used to enjoy. We've just put a new spin on it. And that's actually kind of a great segue here as we get into the first leg of this edition of Six Rings. Andy, we gave ourselves time for the rubber tire pellets and the field turf clouds to settle after week one in the NFL. Monday, overreaction Monday. The rookie quarterbacks stink. This team's going to the Super Bowl. Who saw the Pats winning? This team sucks. We let all those clouds of dust and pellets settle, and now we're calling it Appropriate Reaction Tuesday after week one. Your New England Patriots currently tied for first in the AFC East at 1-0 with the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Williams. The New York Jets just wiped clean with a big old L Monday night. I was surprised. The biggest surprise of that, not just the score, the dominating manner in which the 49ers won the game, but also Jordan Mason, I believe, the backup to Christian McCaffrey, could have run for 300 yards if they just kept feeding him the rock. Dominating performance. But yeah, so we're not going to overreact to anything now. We've given ourselves a little time. Tell me, Andy, now that you've distanced yourself a little bit from that really entertaining surprise dub to some on Sunday, how are you feeling now about your New England Patriots, these new look Pats?
Happy. I mean, happy right now. Like, is there another word than to be happy? Like joyous? Like you got to see a football game that I think you should have found entertaining. We talked a little bit about it in the post-game show. The days of at halftime it's going to be 35-3 are gone. And they've been gone for a while, and that's okay. And when you marry what they did up with the fewest passing touchdowns by a mile in years on opening weekend, and Bill Belichick talking about the lack of the passing game success pretty much across the board. We talked about it, I think, the other day. Or maybe I talk in a lot of places, but
it's a lot of football talk. You're doing a lot of football talk.
When I watch the montage of touchdowns on the Red Zone channel, it's like, geez, a lot of quarterbacks ran for touchdowns and there weren't as many touchdowns. It's like there was no fluidity. Now, you had some really nice plays and some one-offs and different things, but in a lot of ways, it looked like week one. And I still go back to the one way it didn't look like week 1 to me in New England was the successful tackling. And that was my biggest takeaway from the WEEI afternoon show yesterday, Patriots Monday, speaking to Jacoby Brissett in studio, which was a hell of a lot of fun. He's a nice guy. Love it.
I thought he had a very nice appearance, and he
Tremendous.
did have something terrific to say. I don't know if I have that particular audio. He had something extremely flattering to say about Gerard Mayo. And I remember correctly the clip.
Yes.
I think he. I don't have that one, but I have something else I want to play. But it's relevant to this particular topic, salient, if you will. All right, fancy football words. It makes sense to play it now, says Dum Dum. I believe Brissett said he himself couldn't believe how well prepared Mayo had the team coming out of the preseason and also for week 1. He didn't leave a single, and I think this has been a massive concern for Patriots fans. Like, it's going to be a mess. Penalties galore. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. Keon White also echoed those sentiments in a similar comment that he offered after the game on Sunday.
Who's won the championships at every level, really, you kind of just respect that, and he wouldn't have you do anything that he hasn't done or wouldn't do himself. And so he's really like a player's coach. He's relatable. He communicates with all of them, and he makes you want to, like he said in the interview with DG, like, you want to run through a brick wall for him. And that's something special, I feel like.
Getting a lot of this. I'm not. What's the new line? Is it going to be run through a brick wall? Is it make them run the hill? Like, we got a lot of like football guy Hardo like praise going on these days. I think I kind of love it.
Oh, I love it. But the thing I love more than anything is all that is cliche 101, players coach, former player who is a coach. The thing I loved is Jacoby Brissett saying, we're talking about it on the plane. Everything Gerard told us early in the week was how we won the game. Like, he mapped it out. And that is very Belichickian. Very, if you do what I tell you to do on Tuesday and Wednesday, you got a good shot to win on Sunday. And when you do that once and you map it out for them and they begin to believe it more, they don't have to trust the process. They ate the fruit of the process on Sunday. And now they go, So probably this week, if he tells us to do something, I'll do it, because so far he's 1-0 in telling us what to do and how to win and going out there to do it. And I don't want to make more of them what it is. I agree with Gerard Mayo on the Greg Hill show. One game. It's one game. 1-16 is still in play. Like, that's just the reality of the season for this team.
We're not being everyone pipe down or relax, pump the brakes. We're not being the negative Boston media. We're not trolling you saying like, is it still a mathematical possibility? Yes. Are they going to go 1-16? I would bet a lot of money that they do not.
Probably not.
As a matter of
fact,
I
also, he and his team need to prove how they deal with success. Everyone told him for 8 months they suck, they're morons, they can't be Bill Belichick, they don't have a quarterback, they don't have a line. Now it's like, oh, the line's better than we thought. This defense is dominant. They got a number 1 corner.
Yeah,
Seattle's
all right,
not that
slow
good.
down. Everyone's
right? So deal with success. Now prove to me you can prove people wrong on the road in a tough environment as the biggest underdog. Now prove to me.
And opportunistic, Andy. They were very, like, as you pointed out frequently on the postgame show, the balls bounced their ways. They created their own good fortune by punching balls out, knocking balls away. And everything went their way. Now, if things don't go their way, how will this team handle that adversity?
The Bengals were essentially a tourist with a fanny pack wide open, $20 bills hanging out, a camera loosely on their shoulder, walking down the street in Tijuana.
Holding a map, asking people like, excuse me, can you show me? Oh, yes, please. Just for $20, come this way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, they were the willing victim in this game, but the Patriots took advantage. And I like the potential foundation that it laid for this season. It could all shatter. It could all fall apart. We could be like, yeah, it's a foundation, but the dude who poured it was drunk and it's not close to level. It's really facing downhill. But no, I feel good about it. I don't know how you can not feel good about 1-0, not feel good about answering your critics, whatever. Are there things that are overblown? Nothing's more overblown than how well the offensive line played. They played well, but now I'm hearing sort of ridiculousness of how well they played. The reality is,
Leighton Robinson is the new Mankins. Vidarian Lowe, they may have found one. Easy.
Jacoby Brissett dropped back for 31 passes, and he was either hit sacked or pressured on 14 of them. So half the time he dropped back, he had to run for his life.
And he got popped a few times. As a matter of fact, I got to say though, on the notion of Gerard Mayo and how he's doing right now, he's been on a bit of an interview heater recently. Like I think he's made several good appearances on his Zooms, at the podium at Gillette, and on WEEI as well. Here's a little snippet from Patriots Monday talking about the fortitude and quality play of Jacoby Brissett.
Displayed a lot of things. Like, he's a tough guy. There's a tough guy that it really doesn't matter. And I talk about pulling the nose up on the plane, and he did that a few times, and actually made some plays with his legs, which is surprising. He's like probably the slowest black quarterback in the league. No. Look at Stacey. It'd be tough to find.
Only he can say that. We're not allowed to say it. But it's a great line. Like, in the fact that they feel comfortable enough that they can like sort of jab each other like that. Like that's great. Like now we don't want to get into the but seriously, when is Drake May starting thing? Because I know Wiggy tried to get into that, and I'm not here for that crap right now. However, there was a lot of see how much better things got once the cloud of Belichick versus Kraft and everything. Like any team could use the genius of Bill Belichick, but perhaps maybe new energy and a fresh voice is what this team needed, because there's no denying the positive emotional response that came from all those players, most notably the Keon Whites, the Jabril Peppers, those guys, and Juwan Bentley as well.
Yeah, and it's game one. It's the honeymoon period. This generally swings that way, especially when you go from a dictator type coach to a more loose, open, player-friendly type coach. I mean, we all saw it in a different way when Lawyer Malloy left New England, and he was so excited to be in Buffalo, and they're like a family, and I love it here, and they're so nice. And it's like, okay, like what's going to happen in the long run? Let's let the dust settle over a long 17-game season and day in and day out and what the results may be. But the one thing that this guaranteed, actually two things it guaranteed, they can't go 0-17.
Okay, that is now officially off the table. Statistically speaking, you can't go 0-17.
And they can't feel the pressure that builds of being in week 3, 4, 5, 6 and not having a win. And I think that could have been crushing. And so if they go 1-4, it's not great, but it's 1-4 is different than 0-5 in terms of pressure and getting that like monkey off your back type feeling that would have built around Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt. And then you add the details in that I think, if we're being honest, they all deserved the game balls they got or should have gotten. Like, I think DeMarcus Covington should have had a game ball. I thought he was phenomenal in his defensive coordinator role. So game balls for, like, quite honestly, the one guy I'm not sure deserves a game ball, if we're being negative here, and that, that's what I do sometimes.
No, you're allowed to be analytical here, because this is all about, looking at it appropriately with an extra day to consider what is sustainable versus not sustainable. Like, who maybe didn't deserve one?
The person I wouldn't give a game ball to just yet, and has not necessarily proven enough positives to me in this very short sampling, is Elliott Wolf. Like, the rookies didn't play that well. He still doesn't have a left tackle because he didn't get a left tackle. He decided we could move right tackles to left. Remember when he told us Chooks Okorafor could play left tackle? You remember that?
No, he can't.
He can't.
You know who decided
they can't? The Patriots.
Yes. Scott Peters, Gerard Mayo, Ben McAdoo, whoever Alex Van Pelt. By the way, you know who did deserve a game ball? Alex Van Pelt.
Oh, 100%.
Ramondre Stevenson.
That's my point. Of all those guys in new roles, elevated roles, Elliott Wolf to me has the most to prove, because the rookie, Drake May didn't play. Jalen Polk had one catch. Caden Wallace is a backup. He's not a left tackle. He's a.
I'm going to go side note to that. I would really like to see Polk. Hopefully Baker has a good week of practice and gets back on the field, because they're going to need some playmakers, just like my boy Javon Baker as well. Less time on Instagram, more time catching balls on the practice field. Because I last I saw Andy, let's see, Jalen McMillan, the other wide receiver from Washington, caught a touchdown on Sunday. There were a lot of rookie wide receivers. My boy Ladd McConkey, 5 for 40 and a tutty.
Are we going to do that? Are we going to do the Ladd McConkey check-in every effing week?
Yeah, we are probably.
No, we're not.
Sorry. I'm obsessed. I love him.
Okay, well, start a second podcast like McConkey
Okay,
Watch or something.
Lad Watch.
Whatever. I'm
Lord knows
allowed.
I've got the time. All right.
That was good. That was a good one, Fitzy. I don't say that too often, but that one really struck a nerve with me. I didn't see it coming.
I'll float out your ass. All right. Here we go. A lot of positive comments today in the chat as we record live, of course, here on the WEEI socials, here on the Six Rings Pod. Oh, pal, Dr. Peter Schott in Rhode Island. Special teams and defensive turnovers, big reason for the win. Had the Pats turned the ball over like the Bengals, they probably would have lost. It's just good fundamental.
Wait, is his name really Peter Schott?
Yes.
Oh.
Andy.
Because that seems like a description of how a poem ends.
Yes. Okay. Got to talk more about Keon White. What a game. Dude's a beast.
Yep.
Interesting also, by the way, interesting note, Andy. Keon White just randomly has a 2.5 sack performance. Absolutely eats Trent Brown's lunch, leaves him in his two big tracks all over the place on Sunday. Monday, gets a note from the NFL. You've been randomly selected for a performance-enhancing drug test. You don't say.
Well, he looks like an 80s WWF wrestler, so it makes sense. Like, yeah, we should probably check this guy.
I'm telling you, he looks like somebody that like an extra from 300. Like he's
will he have a dozen sacks?
At this point now, when you open with 2.5 sacks, if you can't get 7.5 more, like double-digit sacks, has to be on the table. This is a good time to finish up the first leg here. In terms of recalibrating expectations. All right, forget about like, Pats are going to the playoff. No. 5-12, you may feel more comfortable about saying 5-12 or 6-11 could very well happen on an upswing developmental year. What can Ramondre keep up? Can Keon White get to double-digit sacks? And is the Patriots defense as stout as we would like to think?
Keon White, so he's not going to finish with 42.5 sacks. I'm pretty sure about that, the current pace that he's on. I do think you're right. If he stays healthy, he's got to get to double-digit sacks. There's going to be opportunities. Teams are going to be throwing the ball early on that. Like he should, because I like what I've seen from him, the matchups inside. What was the rest of the question?
Keon White, can he get to double-digit sacks?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about like,
he should
come in and replace Matt Judon. Actually, he might be able to come in and do more. He's different
though. He's not.
I know.
He's not going to replace the dream would be if you had both, or the dream would be if he were playing double inside with Barmore and you had those two guys playing off each other. Like there's certain dreams that could evolve. But no, I think if he stays healthy, he absolutely should have double-digit sacks. He absolutely should be a force for teams to deal with because he's shown the ability to move. You got to remember, this is now a guy that we've seen line up everywhere from zero over the center to stand up outside linebacker and everywhere across the front.
And Brian Baldinger did a nice breakdown talking about on his first sack, he read the offensive protection, moved himself outside so he could use his speed, which is insane to think a man his size thinks about his speed rush game. He goes to the outside, Trent Brown bites, he cuts inside and literally leaves like Trent Brown spinning around as if he were like a character from a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, and then goes in and eats Joe Burrow alive. Like, that's very impressive. It was really impressive stuff week one from a second-year player. Yeah, exactly. Delusional Patriots fan. He is built like a circus strongman. The defense will have their struggles at times, but they're better. They're as good so far. But again, a lot of that was, got to be honest, Cincinnati not ready for prime time. Notoriously slow starts. Burrow, Chase has a case of the SADs because he hasn't signed his contract as well. Not sustainable. I think there's a lot of room for progress and growth on the offense, but not sustainable. 25 carries a week for Ramondre Stevenson. He cannot carry if he shouldn't carry the ball more than 280 times on the season. Gonna need someone else to tote the rock, or maybe Jacoby to slang it.
Especially, and if you remember in the postgame show, I predicted PFF would have impressive broken tackle numbers for Ramondre Stevenson. And according to their numbers, he had 118 of his 120 yards after contact. So that is not sustainable. I forget the carries, which are crazy too. He can't every week have to make chicken salad. Like, he needs some easy runs where it's just like, by God, you see how big that hole was? He did a backflip on his way through the hole. He needs some of that. but he is great. And, I do love the love that he is getting, starting with the head coach, who keeps telling us how much he's told him, I think you're one of the best backs in the league. You're underrated. And then Jacoby Brissett said that. He said, I wasn't really paying attention to the Patriots when I wasn't here anymore. I wasn't really aware of how good Ramondre Stevenson is, but seeing him up close and personal and the things that he can do, even he's had his eyes opened. If you remember, that was also something that, was it who? Oh, Ronnie Perkins, I think, said it.
Old Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma.
He was
whatever
like,
happened to him? I think
idea.
last we saw him, he threw up on the field during the preseason, and then he got cut, made another roster, and has disappeared into oblivion.
But if you remember, he was at Oklahoma with Ramondre Stevenson, and then they were together here, and he's like, he's much better here. The things he does with his footwork and like his ability to break tackles and move and at his size. So, if we're picking the breakout players off of week 1, it's one game, but there's a nice core of guys to pick from, and that's better than the opposite being like, everybody underachieved. Nope, Ramondre Stevenson looks like he could be a breakout player. Christian Gonzalez absolutely looks like he could be a breakout player, and Keon White absolutely looks like he could be a breakout player. You have 3 options, and other guys can enter the conversation. I hope Demario Douglas enters or Polk, or one of the receivers at least enters the conversation of a breakout player. But to come out of week 1 and say, you got for a team with, and we all know all those lists, we all went over them in May and June, and they have no top 10 players at every position. They don't have any top this players. They don't have any young players. Well, to come out of week 1 with 3 guys that are, within their first 4 years in the NFL, 2 of them in their second year in the NFL, potential breakout player candidates, I'll take that for a young rebuilding team. I keep comparing it to the Red Sox. I don't know how this season will end for either team, but you left the Red Sox season with Jarren Duran and Rafaela.
No,
and
they're
Costas.
still holding on. They're clinging to some vestige of life.
I don't buy it.
And you know what's killing me is the Nico Cavadas, one of the players they traded for that garbage reliever from the Angels that's done nothing but give up runs or spend time on the IL, hit his 3rd home run last night. Now, granted, that home run also helped the Red Sox because I think it was against the Royals, so that was a positive. But
put this guy on the screen. I know thy works. The guy who doesn't put his name next to it. Put his comment up there. What
are we talking about?
Put that bitch up there. The last comment. Put that bitch on.
All right, so hold on. I know thy works commented. We have a lot of tremendous chats and
That's
comments.
A weird name.
Andy Hart, 0-17 take was so bad, dude should take the week off. My goodness, how can you show your face after making such a blank of yourself like that?
First of all, you don't have ears. That's apparent because I never picked 0-17. I picked 2-15. I said 0-17 was in play, and we all know that if 1-16 is still in play, then 0-17 was in play. So go pork yourself and tell me your real name if you really want to fight. You got my name. You see my name in your tweet, in your comment right there. I stand by my comments. I put my name behind it. Why don't you put your name behind yours, big boy or girl?
Boy, this is getting zesty now. I love it. Yes, Christian Gonzalez did look like he hasn't missed a beat. He's doing very well. Good start for him as well. Look, just like you heard it last week. We played it for you last week. We'll share it again. Keon White said it Sunday. The previous week, on this defensive lineman's podcast with the $5,000 scarf, we heard exactly what this defense is committed to doing for their coach.
Locker room, like all those guys trust you. All those guys are running to a brick wall behind you, including myself. Just having the culture of you playing football, knowing how it's done, and then coming out to mentoring us each and every day to do the right thing.
There is a unanimity in the messaging right now from this team. You have been there before. You have done it. We trust you. We'll do everything you say. Yeah, honestly, they could lose the rest of the games, but if they, just like one of the commenters put up a few minutes ago, and I shared it here if you're watching live, there was, let me just pull this one up. The defense is all in to win for the coach. It feels like something special is brewing. And someone else said, if they continue to show the grit that they showed on Sunday, I'm going to watch these. I'll ride with these guys. We may start getting more buy-in from the fans, Andy, which is awesome.
And we have fans that are appreciative of an ugly, maybe at times lucky, low-scoring win. And I don't know that we've had that often enough in recent years. We talked about it. The dynasty has been cleansed. We are all now just traditional, uncertain NFL football fans, Patriots football fans that, if they win 1-0, I'll take it, right? Like, I don't care. And the other team fumbles 17 times. Just stop scratching.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure 2-0 would be okay.
Yes, I know. But I'm
Okay.
just saying, and I believe there is actually a weird way in the rule book or something where you can get a point. I think that was a
A
trivia
drop
question
kick?
once.
Is it a drop kick?
I don't know. I forget. But anyway,
Okay.
if the other team fumbles 700 times and you win by 1, 2, 3, whatever, we've reached the point where that's fun and that's good and it's unique and it doesn't have to be Brady to Moss for 17 touchdowns. By God,
No.
like,
Again,
just win, baby.
In this proper reaction Tuesday after overreaction Monday, I want everyone to just recalibrate their expectations. Let them win games the way that they should, the way that the team started winning games way back in the early 2000s. No, nobody is Brady. No, nobody is Belichick. It's a very different team. And yes, it may get very exciting once Drake May does come in right now, but Jacoby Brissett is proving to be a high character, high floor, high effort guy. And that's what's going to help steer this team in the right direction for the time being. All right, so there's our appropriate reaction Tuesday following overreaction Monday. People feel good about this team. Hopefully there is more buy-in. Hopefully there is more fanfare, and there's definitely more energy. Share your thoughts with us anytime. He's at Jumbo Hart. I'm at Fitzy GFY, and this is the At Six Rings Pod. All right, Andy, just a couple of notes here and Patspourri on the back leg of the pod. So we talked about Keon White being randomly drug tested, which was interesting to say the least. A lot was made also of people attached to the organization or previously attached to the organization and their media dabblings over the weekend. I want to start, though, with Monday before we get into Tom Brady and how he did on Sunday. I want to get in real quick to the former coach, who I know Chris Curtis from the Greg Hill Morning Show on EEI said, oh, this team is so much better off without Belichick at this point. There was a very funny Dan Shaughnessy line we shared on Sunday from his reaction column where he said maybe they'll produce an 11th episode of the Dynasty documentary series and call it Who Needs Belichick? He went on the Pat McAfee show Monday and did his first major in-season appearance. He was also on the Manning Cast Monday night, and he seemed very comfortable. He was chatty, smiling most of the time. You can see how much he genuinely appreciates Peyton, and now he and Eli have decided to call a truce. They're not going to bust each other's balls. He won't troll Eli. Eli won't rub the Super Bowls in his face. All good. Very fun. Good kind of sports fan, football guy chatter. However, I just got to say, I cannot believe that Bill Belichick would be on the Pat McAfee show for 40 minutes and nobody asked him about his former team, his former protege, with their surprising win, the biggest underdog from Sunday to get a dub, the way that they played, the effort that they put forth, even to tee him up softball style. No, this is not Belichick hate, number one, audience. And number two, I just wanted to hear him speak on it. So when I'm asking this, because I got all these shithead comments from the cesspool, that's fine. There was a lot of them are shitheads, but all these people cry more, cope, like he owes you anything. Maybe he should apologize for all of his Super Bowls. I'm so sick and tired of that crybaby protective Belichick. Yeah, you should be kissing his rings every day. I just wanted to know what the man thought about how the Patriots played on Sunday. I was hoping somebody would ask him. But if he went into that appearance at the wherever he was and is like, nope, guys, don't ask me about the Patriots, and the McAfee show played along, boo hiss.
Well, first of all, these are your people. You know that. You people. You created these people. You created this monster, and now you've lost control of the monster you helped create. Second of all, the McAfee show has become, it's the new Oprah. It's a, tickle fest, pillow fight. It's the softest of landing spots for anybody. You're not going to get anything controversial there. But I also do wonder, because we're still early in the week, and because I know Bill did McAfee, then he did the Manning cast.
Yep.
I wonder, with all of these endeavors he has,
he's on Beat Bobby Flay on the Food Network today.
I would actually watch that. With all of these endeavors he has, is it possible that some of them he's promised content to? Like the first place each week, I'll talk about Gerard Mayo's performance as Patriots coach will be on the Underdog Pod or
with Patricia and Lombardi, because
Yeah.
he can't not make. Yeah, does he have to have content? Wow, that's a very good point.
I wonder.
Promissory content notes like, Pat, I'll give you general NFL. Peyton will talk about this game and our relationship. Patricia, you get that. Wow. Wouldn't that be weird if he had to do that?
But he needs to at some point differentiate them all, right? Try to give value to the people paying him. So I don't know. It might be, but it was weird. I agree with you. For that long, it'd be one thing if he did a 10-minute segment, and I know they have the Boston Connor, as this said.
Yep. As Los Talks Pats points out from Twitter, the fact that Boston Connor, who I've communicated with before and is a super nice dude, and he's a diehard Pats fan, the fact that the diehard resident Pats fan who was wearing Pats gear on the set didn't even ask a question must mean that there is something
right
contractual,
either contractual or quid pro quo or favor, whatever it is. And maybe he won't talk about them at all. Because remember I asked you post game, do you think he's even happy for Gerard Mayo? And Gerard Mayo was asked on the Greg Hill show, has your predecessor reached out? And he said, I'm not going to get into that, which is smart. That's not a yes or a no, but it certainly feels like a no from Gerard Mayo. So
yeah, and Mayo completely had to avoid it. Yeah, that like you're saying, like that's awkward.
The reality is, Bill was pissed at Mayo for taking his job. Bill stopped talking to him midway through last season. Bill hasn't talked to him since. And
I think Callahan and Volan both sort of reported on that to a degree.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there
it's
were a lot of rumblings. It's
a fact.
It is.
Bill stopped talking to Gerard Mayo in the middle of last season. Hasn't talked to him since. Did not wish him well when he took the job. Bill felt undercut at some point, I think, when contractually it was written in that the head coach in waiting was right there. The whole thing. So it doesn't surprise me if Bill wouldn't reach out to him. It's kind of sad, but it also doesn't surprise me. And we've also talked about one of the things I do love about Bill is his ability to kind of be a baby and be vindictive and hold a grudge and those things, because I do those things. So, Bill, it's not the proper way to do it as an adult.
You see yourself in Belichick.
Yes, I would tell him from afar, it's not the proper way to do it as an adult, as a professional, but it might be the way I do it, and I appreciate it, Bill.
No, I see and I feel you, Coach. At the same, a Lannister always pays his debts, an eye for an eye, exactly, and nobody holds a grudge like a Belichick. But at the same time, I just want, like, if he's able to do inside the NFL and coach with Patricia and Lombardi or the Fob show on Underdog Fantasy and doesn't talk about it, then I mean, that'll just be the strangest thing in the world. Now, speaking of talking about it and how you speak about it, now we've had a day to digest Brady's debut as color analyst 1 on the Fox NFL broadcast. It wasn't great, not going to lie. But Andy, do you think it's because Brady was nervous? Do you think it's because it's just different? It's a tough undertaking, and even though he called a full pretend season of games with Burkhardt to warm up, that there's still just the natural lights are bright, booty holes get tight nerves? Or is it because he's kind of compromised with this foolish pursuit of like 2% ownership of the Raiders, which will never allow him to be the Tom Brady we need him to be in the booth?
No, I think part of it is first time. It's not easy. Even if you do practice games, I think it's probably not the same as knowing the cameras are live. But I also, I was one that said from the beginning, I didn't think Tom would be very good at it. You know what I think his biggest problem is? He gives an F. He cares what people think. And if you care what people think, you can't be comfortable, natural, energetic. You know what I mean? Like you're thinking about everything you're saying. And I think that will hinder his ability to be a good color analyst. I actually think, I said this yesterday with Arcand, I think Fox should pull the plug already. And I think Fox should take him and reassign him as just a simple quarterback analyst, do a one-off show per week where he breaks down every quarterback in the NFL, do it in the offseason and have him break down every draft pick. Sort of like remember the old Gruden bus or Gruden grinder? I don't know.
The QB camp or like,
yeah. Do that. He would sit, Tom Brady.
Because after he and Sean McDonough didn't get along and they still had Gruden on the deal for a while, but I loved those.
And I think Brady would be good at those. I don't think he can do the live reactionary. I mean, hell, he even had so little emotion that Scott Hansen called him out, and then Scott Hansen felt bad because his boss told him to apologize, and then Brady actually handled the apology pretty well. No big deal, brother, kind of thing. But I never had an expectation that Brady would be. He's certainly not worth $37 million because I don't know anybody that could be worth $37 million.
No, and Greg, listen, Greg Olson won the Emmy 2 years in a row. I still think Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are the best 1-2 punch when it comes to, play-by-play and analysis in the NFL. I wish they were back on Fox so I could hear them Well, actually, I get to hear him every Monday night, which is fine. But yeah, Brady didn't do any. Again, it's week 1. We're going to have to give him a couple of weeks to see if he revs up. There have been like, hey, I thought the first episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm sucked. And then next thing I know, a couple episodes later, it turns into one of my 5 favorite shows of all time. These things happen. Just like with TV shows, you give a movie 30 minutes, you give a TV show like 3 episodes before you decide I'm in or I'm out usually. We have to give him a few weeks, but reserved, dead air spaces sometimes after big plays, because Burkhardt is just like already in midseason form. Guy's good at what he does.
I don't know what he makes, but he's obviously making a fraction of what Tom Brady makes and thinking like, wait, I got to cue this guy up. I got to jab this guy and tell him how to do his job. And he's making X times what I'm making. That's got to be a little frustrating with Burkhardt because he's a true professional. But It was awkward from minute 1. I just love being your partner. Well, you guys are literally in the first minute of your first broadcast.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you know? Like you seem to have really good chemistry with the previous guy who got demoted to B team and had to take a $7 million pay cut so they could pay Brady $35 million too much. And it just the problem was that deal was so absurd. It created a level of expectations that if Brady didn't come in and change the way you heard football called forever, then everyone's just gonna be like, nope, this guy sucks. Nope, I'm out. He's awful. He was the GOAT of football. He's the GOAT, the wrong kind of GOAT of broadcasting. So it does seem like a kind of impossible scenario for him as well. Lastly, let's just get to any other NFL storylines, goings on that caught your eye, merited attention, that may or may not have involved body cam footage.
Oh, you want to get into Tyreek Hill and
what a disaster. What an awful, 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 awful handling of any human being, let alone somebody who pumps money into. I don't care what you think about the 10 babies and the 6 baby mamas and his previous behaviors. That's all not great. And I'm no card carrying member of the Reek fan club. That said, the way that was handled, I don't want to replay the body cam footage now for everyone in case you haven't seen it. Go find
everybody
it
has seen it.
It was so bad.
How bad was it?
It was really damning to police officer and African-American engagements and relations. It was terrible for Miami-Dade County. They're literally right outside the stadium. The guy's like, I play for the that's one of our star players. You hear the guy saying, I just had knee surgery. Easy, bro. Like,
well, which I don't really know if that's, I mean, I watched the game afterwards and he ran 80 yards. I think his knee is fine. Like he's the fastest guy on the field. I mean, the reality is Tyreek Hill did not handle it well initially. He was kind of a dink. And then the cops were like, well, if you I'll see your dink and I'll raise it tenfold, because then the dinkiness just exploded. And then old friend Jonnu Smith shows up.
And there's Calais Campbell, who's a gentle giant. And like Jonnu Smith, maybe one of the cops was like, hey, I'm a Pats fan. You stole money from us, or you ruined my fantasy team. Pete the Animal Austin watching live on YouTube right now, Andy, on the Six Rings pod. Don't mess with the cops in Florida. They are nasty. I don't mean.
And Jonnu Smith, like somebody said, I felt bad for Johnny. You could tell he was really rattled. Yeah, because he stopped because his buddy, his teammate, his friend is in a situation, and you're just trying to be a good guy and a good teammate. And I saw Mike McDaniel talking about that. Who he annoys me. He over dramatizes everything. I like Mike McDaniel. Not a huge fan.
Yeah, he's a brilliant offensive architect, but he's also like an unemployed beat poet and stand-up comic, and it's just like.
Yeah, he's a caricature of himself. Like he's like swerved into what people think he is. I don't know. But it's a bad situation for the league. It's a bad situation for the cops. Like everybody looked bad because they even got into the whole race thing where like some guys was like, hey, we're all brown here. So this is not one of those things or whatever. And it was like, okay, now black and brown, and now we're doing colors. And the whole thing was just, and it was
unfortunate.
I mean, I've had interactions like that with cops. Cops have an arrogance to them. It's just the reality. And I support cops. I'm not anti-cops.
Yep.
Right.
No, we are pro blue here.
My best friend's a cop.
I like to work blue. Andy likes to support the blue.
They have the toughest job on the planet. I firmly believe that, because every time you approach a car, you could be shot. And that's just the reality of the situation. It's awful.
That's why you want to keep the window down, hands on the wheel, so you can see where they are. And I disagree with some of the commenters here on our live commenting on this podcast recording. I don't think the mass hole cops or just the Mass State Police, despite what Javon Baker and some other knuckleheads may say. I have a lot of friends. I'm friendly with a lot of them.
Yep.
I've told you guys before on the pod, and I've said it at the stadium. Nothing I love more than walking across the street to say hello to some fans in the lots and get a feel for the Foxborough faithful. And the cops say, "Hey, Fitzy, how we doing today? How we looking today? Heard you on the radio." But like, we chat. They're real people too. It's a tough, thankless job at times.
Awful.
But when you, in the day and age of like accountability, body cam footage, and more, you got to be mindful of this. You can't overextend yourself to that regard. And I think I think what probably sealed the deal was the way the Calais Campbell thing was handled, because he's just like, that's my friend. I'm just making sure he's okay. I'm okay. I'll get my license. And the guy's like, "You're dealing with me now." And
he lost it, and he can't lose it. His job is to not lose it. His training is to not lose it. And that's why I couldn't be a cop. Like, a man's got to know his weaknesses. I couldn't be a cop. I would never handle the situation properly. I think I would escalate the situation improperly like that guy did. But when you sign on the dotted line to take that job, that's what you sign up for. And it takes the right. It's like the military. I could never be in the military. Like, that takes a certain type of person for that lifestyle. And that's why I think we're all so appreciative of the military and of cops and officers that do such a difficult, thankless job. But when you do the job, you got to do it a certain way. And, you're going to deal with dinks. You're going to deal with dinks in a Ferrari who thinks he's entitled to not put his window down. And Tyreek Hill had that. Like, that was his offense. And then I don't know what he actually got pulled over for. I know it's seatbelt, but
speeding.
I don't know. Was it 100? Was he doing 100? I saw a report.
They said like 125. Dude was not doing 125 miles an hour.
I mean, I don't know how he could be on his way into a game. Like, it's traffic. It's like, and if he was, that also is a layer to it, because that's not speeding. That's like driving to endanger.
That's driving to endanger. And like we've said before, how many different people, from the Henry Ruggs to Jordan Addison and others, have been involved? Jalen Carter, I believe.
Right, it's a problem. Kirby Smart says it's the biggest problem with young athletes right now is speeding and drag racing and cars. It's like superseded other problems that have come along over the years, drinking or whatever. Like, the speeding is an issue, but it's just unfortunate because it didn't need to probably go the way it went. It went sideways in a hurry, unfortunately. And it's a little bit of a black eye on the first weekend of football. And I worry just in general about our country when we're always sort of on seemingly the precipice of issues like this kind of exploding, going from brush fire to bonfire.
I mean, is this going to turn it, like he was on CNN last night? Is this going to turn into a debate question tonight? Well, yes. Here we are on the day before 9/11. God bless everyone affected by that, and never forget. But also, is this going to be a debate question tonight in what is the most important presidential debate in ages?
And who's debating?
What's that?
Who's debating? It's a white man with certain views about him and a black woman with certain views about her, right? Like, I feel like this could merge.
Yes, it could. And it could very well, like a lot of things in this country, unfortunately become contentious.
Put it to good use. I think Tyreek Hill is actually trying to put it to good use. I don't think he's necessarily pretending he's a saint. But it'll be interesting to see how this is handled by the Dolphins, by the NFL, by the players at large. I'll be interested, quite honestly, to hear, for example, from two guys who are ex-Patriots who are now in various media jobs, but Jason and Devin McCourty, who were very active in the state of Massachusetts in these social issues and have gone through the George Floyd era and the kneeling and the Kaepernick and saw how these were handled, and maybe get their opinions on how this should be handled, where it should go, how it could be put to positive use moving down the road. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes this week. But it's a massive topic right now.
Mistakes like this are only to our benefit if they can be used as teachable moments, and we learn and we grow and we improve the quality of those people's lives and the lives of everyone affected by that, or who may find themselves in a similar situation down the road. All right, Andy, great pod. As always, thank you guys for all of your comments and contributing to an excellent podcast. We love having you live. This has become our favorite way to do this. We can catch up, take the temperature, hang out and chat with you guys. And then, of course, bring the people that just like to plug this into their car, their phone, at work, on a jog, or wherever you happen to go. The latest and greatest musings, ramblings, notes, and nuggets from Pat's Nation. He is, of course, at Jumbo Hart. You can find him on the WEEI Afternoon Show, 2 to 6 on 93.7 FM and WEEI.com. You know me, your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens. I'll just be doing something stupid on Instagram later on today. All right. For everyone at WEEI Odyssey and 2400 Sports, this has been Six Rings and Football Things. We'll be back later this week with our preview against Seattle. We'll go behind enemy lines and bring you everything else we possibly can to keep you, the best fans in football, informed and entertained. Take care, everybody. Good day. God bless. Stay safe. And as always,